Good morning and thanks for joining us on the Thursday edition of TVC Breakfast. Now, daily reports on killings and attacks in various parts of the country shows that Nigeria is not out of the woods on its insecurity problem. The latest incidents were recorded in Imo and Sokoto states. Gunmen invaded Njaba local government, opening fire on traditional rulers during a meeting, leaving at least 2 of them dead and several wounded, according to police. While in Sokoto states, bandits killed about 30 persons in Goronyo town. Joining me via Skype to shed more light on this issue is Kabir Adamu, a security expert and managing director, Beacon Consulting Nigeria. Good morning and thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you and good morning.
Right. Now, this recent development is generating a lot of concerns, and even the Imo State governor, with regards to the killings of the monarch, is saying that this is kind of a new dimension to the activities of banditry, that's what he calls it, in the state, and that he won't allow it. And then we also get reports that about 200 persons carried out their attack in Sokoto state where over 30 persons were killed. What do you make of this recent development?
It's an indication, unfortunately, of the breakdown of law and order, and in fact of social order in the country. And I'll quickly explain what I mean. There, in both of the incidents, there should have been early warning signs that indicated an attack was impending. People move around with guns. In the case of Sokoto, in numbers ranging to about 200. From what we heard, they were motorbikes. Each of them, one bike carrying 2 persons, and each person carrying a type of weapon, either AK-47 or AK-49, or even higher grade weapons. Now moving for distances of sometimes above 50 kilometers. So there were early warning signs. All the places they passed, people there should have seen them, picked up the fact that they were heading to a particular location. And more importantly, 2 weeks before that attack, there was an incident in a market where Fulanis were targeted and killed. And everyone who monitored development in that location knew that there could be a reprisal attack. So that's for the case of Sokoto. In the case of the Imo incident, since September, my consultancy have been recording instances where anyone associated with government or the upcoming elections or any activity that could indicate government's interest was targeted and killed. I can give you statistics of that types of killing, targeting of persons. So clearly, any meeting that could indicate there was some form of government, support or presence was likely to be a target. So what kind of security arrangement was put in place for that meeting by traditional rulers? Now that's for breakdown of law and order. In terms of social order, the nature of the killing, going to a market where armless people were gathered and opening fire on them. From what we are told, in the case of the Sokoto killing, they gathered around the town and just opened fire freely and killed just anyone. So clearly, no respect for human life. Now, in the case of Imo State, every Nigerian holds dearly the institution of our traditional rulership. We revere that institution. But now we've woken up to a situation where people no longer hold that institution dearly. They go and kill members of that institution. So clearly, something is wrong with that social order. It's a reflection, unfortunately, of the deteriorating nature of our existence in Nigeria.
Now, where we have reprisal attacks, like you have pointed out that perhaps that is what's happened in Sokoto State. How do we resolve issues of that nature where we do not know who we can engage to deal with matters of such nature?
So it lies squarely with the administration of criminal justice in the country. I think, and this has been reflected in the report released by, I think it was API on social cohesion in the country in August. That report showed clearly that the threshold for social cohesion in Nigeria is below the global threshold. I think global threshold is about 50%, and our report showed that what we have in Nigeria is about 40 something, 44% thereabout. So clearly, the trust that the citizen put on institutions of government, especially those institutions that have responsibility for the administration of criminal justice, is no longer there. So people rather pick up arms and try to extort, their pound of flesh, as it were. And that is what runs across the country wholly. The social contract, where government is supposed to protect you and I, there are several instances where that social contract, at least the component where protection is required, is no longer felt. And that's why, unfortunately, people tend to, resort to helping themselves, quite unfortunately. Just as we're talking yesterday, a highway was blocked somewhere in Niger, and we're told that almost about 30 people have been abducted. These are people traveling from one point to another, and they never reach their destination. They are currently in the hands of bandits, unfortunately.
Now, this begs the question, where do we go from here? Because if the people no longer trust the system that administers justice, and everything seems to be going in a different direction, that people are now resorting to find solution for themselves, where does this leave us? How do we move from here as a people, as a government, as a country?
Now, I've been emphasizing the point around social order, social justice, and social cohesion. All of this requires us to come together, especially our leadership, to ask that critical question: what do we want as a people? In our current structures, is it supporting our aspirations as a people? If not, what are the kind of changes that we need to make? And this, for me, these are the critical questions we should ask as we go into 2023. What kind of leadership do we expect to address these types of issues? The overwhelming deployment of kinetic force, yes, it's important because you need to contain the threat factors, but beyond the deployment of kinetic force, how do we address those core issues that are driving violence in the country? Socioeconomic grievance, as an example, and I can speak about this at the federal level and then at the subnational level. There is no state that you go to at the moment that this socioeconomic grievance is, pitted upon political exclusion, economic sometimes, or social exclusion that are not almost vibrant in all these at the federal and at the state level. Then the second point is poverty, and as well as unemployment. The rates across the country are alarming. Sokoto State, as an example, according to NBS statistics, has an 87% poverty rate, even though that has been disputed by the Sokoto State government. Then Lagos State has 4%. Youths are moving from Sokoto to Lagos in search of economic migration. But unfortunately, people don't understand the reason for the movement. Now, hate messaging has been associated with that movement, saying that they are either bandits or terrorists. Meanwhile, they are economic migrants. Third point is climate change and our inability to address the consequences of climate change. Then weapons proliferation. The number of weapons that are in circulation at the moment in the country, they are alarming. My consultancy did a report recently, and we came up with a figure of about 4.9 million in circulation against the 580 something that is in the hands of our state agents. So clearly, the ratio is not in any way one that the state authorities can contend with. And then, of course, I talked about the administration of criminal justice system that is failing to arrest and punish offenders. Then, of course, our porous borders, issues like drug addiction and all that. So these are the drivers of insecurity that no kinetic force can change. Rather, we need to look at these issues that I've mentioned. They are the issues that would help reduce this social, breakdown of social order and this, as well as law and order across the country, not kinetic force, unfortunately.
All right. That would be a fine place to leave the conversation this morning. Thank you so much, Kabir Adamu, security expert and managing director, Beacon Consulting, Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.